Good evening, Steelers Nation, or for many of us here on the East Coast, good morning. I'm your host for tonight, Joe Morrison. I'm here with Mr. Alan Saunders, who is on site at Acrisure Stadium, who throttled the Miami Dolphins. And though some analysts said the Dolphins are built for the cold, I don't think that was the case. What are your thoughts, Mr. Saunders?
Oh, I don't think the cold really had anything to do with it. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers just kicked their butts. I think this was an absolute domination in the second half of this game by the Steelers, and they were able to take Devon Achane out of this game. They were able to make Tua be one-dimensional. The Dolphins receivers aren't what they once were. They absolutely was Jalen Waddle even here tonight? I don't like. They locked him. They locked him down. I think this was a dominant performance in three phases from the Steelers in that third quarter that showed you what this team is really capable of when it's playing complementary football and both of its units are playing well at the same time. Probably the first time all season we've seen that over that kind of sample.
Certainly, and I'm sorry, Waddle had two catches today, but I only thought of one, and that was just that garbage time catch that was really
only had one that mattered. Yeah.
So, but no, absolutely. It was a great evening, and it's funny. 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't have thought that this team would probably be in this kind of position. 2 weeks ago, the stadium had their chance about Mike Tomlin, and a big win in Baltimore, and then a big thrashing today might have some folks feeling differently about the season. But yeah, no, it was definitely something great, and I do want to give one shout out here. We'll get into our comments now. Mr. Guino shouting out the guy I want to shout out. Props to Dylan Cook and the O-line today. Really excited about that unit's future. And Mr. Saunders, you highlighted Dylan Cook on Wednesday. You said you had a lot of faith of him. And what were your thoughts of his game today?
It's really tough from my angle to really evaluate offensive line play, but I thought he looked pretty good out there at first glance. Certainly, look, anytime your four-string anything is in the game, if you don't notice them that much, that's probably a pretty good sign. And I think it's a real testament to the strength of this offensive line that they've been able to absorb losses. Really, without repercussion, they lose Isaac Seumalo at the end of this game. They're still running the ball well. He has a triceps injury. I would say very quickly ruled out of the rest of this game. Probably doesn't sound good for him next week. Could be getting a Spencer Anderson start at left guard. It hasn't mattered. They've played well no matter who's been in there. They're not elite, but they're playing good, and they're playing good complementary football. It's a young group growing together. I think it's really fun that guys like Dylan Cook and Spencer Anderson, who are the same age roughly as the rest of this young core of this offensive line, who have been kind of hanging around as sort of afterthoughts, really. I mean, when people are talking about the Steelers are investing in this big offensive line rebuild, they're talking about Broderick Jones, Trey Fautanu, Zach Frazier. They're not talking about Dylan Cook and Spencer Anderson. But to see those guys come along and play the way they are too, man, I think you have to be really encouraged about the future of this unit.
And how about, he got a lot of flack over the past couple off seasons from some fans on social media. How about Pat Meyer? I mean, a lot of folks kind of question, why he was signed so quickly before the hiring of Arthur Smith. Was he going to mesh well with Arthur Smith? And by all accounts, I mean, Troy Fautanu's been great. Mason McCormick's been good. Zach Frazier's been good. Broderick Jones, I think, has taken some steps forward. And Dylan Cook played well tonight. And I got to tip your cap to him. He has made sure these guys are ready to go. And, big shout out to him. We have one comment here, as you were highlighting this evening in our little group chat. Cam doing the sack celebration that is made by none other than Mr. T.J. Watt, who is out tonight. Good to see that front, really that defensive line play well. I mean, early on, it kind of looked like you didn't know how they were going to form, but 63 yards allowed on the ground today.
63 yards on the ground. I think 60 of them from Devin Achane and 49 of those in the first half. They completely shut the tap off in the second half. I thought Cam was a monster out there today. I thought Alex Highsmith looked really good. Nick Herbig played well. He went down late with a hamstring injury. Again, tough injury to come back from in 1 week. Could be seeing Jack Sawyer making a start next week if TJ is not able to return. But Cam said after the game, like, we feel like we just bought TJ a week. Like, win a game, keep the pressure off. They didn't. I mean, I felt like Tua owned a lot of the sacks that they got. I don't know what he was doing out there, but I mean, I thought they stopped the run. They got him in 3rd and long. They put him in positions where he felt like he had to extend plays to make plays for his team, and then they made him pay for doing that. And this is exactly how this defense has been drawn up. Nobody drew it up with Asante Samuel at corner. Nobody drew it up without TJ Watt. Nobody drew it up with Wyatt Black and Asezi Atomowo playing half the game. But here they are. And, man, like, I don't think Terrell Austin's done a great job overall with his defense. I think there's a lot of blame to go around for this defense not producing like the way we thought it would this season. But also there probably needs to be a lot of credit for finding ways to reinvent themselves on the fly and figure stuff out that works. I felt very confident in their ability to shut this Miami offense down. And this might be the first time all year where I came into a game feeling that, and they actually lived up to it.
No, certainly. And a couple things you kind of mentioned Tua there with those sacks. Guino kind of asked us, is 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers more mobile than Tua? Because, I mean, no, it looked like even there was that one 3rd down play where, I mean, all he had to do was just fall forward, and he couldn't even do that and get the first down. Then, of course, they had to delay a game, led to the punt. But David has a question because you kind of mentioned Terrell Austin there. The defense continues, to play well and be okay down the stretch. Do you think TA is going to keep his job, and the blame will then shift to the front office for the misevaluations? That's an interesting couple of questions in one by David there.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think free agent type transaction evaluations are mostly done by Mike Tomlin. That's very much his area. I feel like he was the driving force in putting the secondary together. It did not work. And I've often said that I feel like TA is a better defensive coordinator when it comes to covering up strengths than maximizing weaknesses. I'm sorry, the other way around, covering up weaknesses instead of maximizing strengths. They weren't able to create a great defense out of what looked like on paper a great defense. They have been able to create a good defense out of pieces and parts that no one expected to be here at this point. But I think if you want to have a great defense, and the Steelers do, you got to have a guy who can build the great defense. And I mean, TA hasn't been bad in his time. He had 3 straight top 10 defenses before this season. But I don't think we've seen a defense that came in looking good and turned out to be great under his watch. And I think if you want to be a championship caliber organization, you got to be striving for that.
No, certainly. Yeah, we'll definitely see how the rest of the season goes, David. But I mean, it's not totally out of question. Some of the things, and and to Alan's point, it's been very up and down for Terrell Austin, but nights like tonight help his cause. Father Abraham, while we're kind of talking coordinators, he highlighted Arthur Smith. He says the best 2 quarters of Arthur Smith in the second half as a Steeler, and I have to agree. I mean, it was really good game plan adjustment. I mean, first half was pretty up and down, but I think once they kind of got a feel for what Miami's wanting to do, they I kind of looked at it like this. They're delivering on big hits early, but when you try to hit those haymakers over and over again, eventually you're going to wear yourself down. The Steelers did a good job of jabbing, throwing a cross in there, and then eventually just put them in the corner.
Yeah, I mean, even when things weren't working in the first half, I thought it was much more on Aaron Rodgers than it was on Arthur Smith. That was holding the ball too long on those third downs, wasn't giving the guys a chance to make a play. Two really, I thought, poor sacks on his part in that game. Uh, and it seemed like you had the third drive. You have a 24-yard run on first play. It comes back as a holding call that ends up being a 35-yard swing. I mean, that's tough to overcome, man. And so then, like, that's to me what was going on before. Like, it was. I thought Arthur Smith called a great game all the way through. I just thought it was a couple bad plays by the quarterback, a holding penalty they couldn't overcome, and then they really got going with that last drive of the first half, double dip in the second half, and look, this is not a good Dolphins defense. I don't want to make too much of this performance, but that was pretty clinical in the third quarter. It gets really hard to do a lot better than that on offense. Really, on defense, it is impossible to do a lot better than that on defense, and it's really hard to do a lot better than that on offense.
And how about Kenneth Gainwell? 13 carries, 80 yards. And I believe he's currently the Steelers' catch leader on the team, as he got 7 catches tonight. What a pickup he's been. And Arthur Smith, has done a good job of mixing him and Jalen Warren for the most part. Uh, yeah, big game from Kenneth Gainwell tonight. And yeah, it's going to be interesting kind of going next week into Detroit. Brandon has a question. Are Pierre and Harmon expected to be back against Detroit? I feel like Pierre being do not practice all week, I don't think it'll be as optimistic, but Harmon at least was questionable. So maybe there's a little optimism there. What do you think?
Yeah, I also felt like the way Asante Samuel played today, probably not a reason to rush him back. But Harmon, I feel good about playing next week. Yes, Pierre, we'll see. I don't know. Hard to judge when I haven't seen the man practice. But I feel pretty. I thought Harmon probably could have played this week, but maybe wasn't going to be 100%. But instead, they decided to wait. I think he will be good to go next week.
And here's a comment from Mike here, kind of going back to that Cam celebration. Say he's just glad that Cam didn't pop his hammy on that TJ Selly. I've tried doing the celebration a few times with my son because he likes to do. He's a big TJ Watt fan, so he likes to do that. And I will say, if you get that leg up high enough, you're gonna you're gonna feel the pull a little bit. So that's a good point there, Mike. And Redbeard says, I have petty game balls. And he gives those to Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. Ramsey he had a sack today. And then Jonnu Smith had the rushing touchdown. So I think they made their presence felt for the most part. I think, even though both those two and Minka Fitzpatrick will say, oh, it's just another game, you can tell that all three of those guys wanted it.
Yeah, Ramsey, you could really tell. I thought really wanted it. Didn't talk to him after the game. Did talk to Johnny Smith. He said some little sugar on top, I believe was his quote to the TV broadcast. I think there's something to be said for the way the Steelers are playing in terms of just they're getting buy-in from a lot. Like I know there's been a lot of negativity around this team, but like there isn't any within this team. And you got guys that are like, this was a big experiment in terms of the number of different tenured guys they brought into this team. And then in the middle of the season, they've brought in guys like Samuel, guys like MVS. I think Aaron Rodgers called them cast-offs today. Like everybody's pulling their weight. Everybody's getting along. It's an interesting group. I've been around a bunch of these Steelers teams and can't really remember one like this in terms of the way the different pieces are fitting together right now. And yeah, those two guys certainly are part of that.
Yeah, I will say, credit to Jalen Ramsey for taking on that safety role because, any other corner of his caliber could, very easily just say, look, I'm not going to do anything except play corner, whether it's boundary slot. But he's taken on that role, and I mean, he's done very well, I feel like, in that role. So definitely agree with Redbeard there. Petty game ball, and I love petty game balls, you guys. Please, every week, bring those on. Benjamin, he has a statement here. He says, Steelers are 7-point underdogs next week, and the Ravens are favored against the Patriots. Division race is far from over, but he's excited about the possibilities with how things are going down the stretch. In GITV, I'm assuming he's saying get in the van.
Get in the van. Heck yeah,
yes,
Benjamin.
sir. But no, I mean, the Steelers, I think we saw today, they just need to beat the Ravens very last week of season, win the division. So it is far from over, but
forget that. They just need to beat the Browns. The Ravens aren't running the table here, folks. They got the Packers. They got the Patriots. Come on. Beat the Browns, take care of business, and they're in good shape without having to beat the Ravens week 18, which I think, considering the age of this team, the injury report, by the way, I type up like a chart of the injury report. It's like 3 pages now to get down to the bottom of it. The number of injuries they're dealing with, the age of this team. I think there's a huge benefit to them to trying to win this division in week 17. So I mean, look, this Lions game, I don't think there's a lot of expectations. But assuming the Ravens lose one of these, just go beat those Browns. And I think they're in pretty good shape.
And I said on Twitter, a couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, I guess, for the Bills game, the Steelers just steal one of those games, either the Bills or Lions, and then beat the Dolphins, beat the Ravens once, and then take care of
beat
business
the Lions.
The Browns.
It's almost over.
Oh yeah,
Still beat the Lions. I mean, it would be technically possible for the Ravens to come back, but it's pretty darn improbable.
And I think if they beat the Lions and then beat the Browns, then, hypothetically, if the Ravens win out, they would still win by a common opponent at that point.
Yes, if they beat the Lions this coming week, then the following week they would clinch the division. They could clinch the division.
So a lot at stake, and keep in mind, folks, Jared Goff does not play well against Pittsburgh defenses. So, not saying that they should, that everyone should, puff their chests out, because they have to go to Detroit, and I imagine those fans are feeling the season on the line as well. So, Brandon also kind of says, felt like there were a couple of interceptions left on the field tonight, but there was also another comment that's here by Shower in My Socks. Great name.
Love that handle.
Asante interception got me out of my seat, and what a way to, he hasn't been here very long, but what a way to make your mark on your first start with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mr. Asante Samuel Jr.
Yeah, I mean, Highsmith absolutely should have had that one. That was an even worse pass than the one that was intercepted. Somebody else had their hands on one later as well. I can't remember who it was. Look, Tua is going to put the ball in danger. That's not a mystery. I thought Asante Samuel played really well, though, not just on the interception, but all game. There were basically no passes to wide receivers for Miami. He did give up the first touchdown to Darren Waller, but super garbage time, who cares stuff there. I mean, Jalen Waddle and Malik Washington combined 336. And I think at least one of those and maybe 2 of those were pretty deep into garbage time. I mean, the Steelers just dared Tua to beat him, and he couldn't. Now, look, this Dolphins team is not that good. I don't want to make too much of this performance, but that was pretty stellar defense from the Steelers tonight. That was the kind of stuff that we expected to see all year, and it's funny and weird that it came here in the way that it did, but I think you got to give them some credit for getting to it.
And to your point, Dolphins isn't very good, but this is what good teams are supposed to do against teams like the Dolphins. I mean, they're supposed to handle them. I mean, if you want to be a good team, you want to consider yourself a contender in an AFC that by all accounts, is still very much wide open. Despite the Broncos and Patriots records, I really feel like anyone in the AFC playoffs, once we get there, they can either beat each other or lose to each other. It could go either way. I feel like the strongest pack, you could say it's Buffalo, but
The
I
Steelers
still
played
feel
like they played in the second half of this game. They're beating any team in the AFC.
exactly 100%. So, but yeah, it was a great win. Gotta have it, and they came through. While we're kind of talking about new Steelers, Mike says it was nice seeing MVS make an impact tonight on the 19-yard touchdown on the crosser. Plus, was also a good bit on the field with some blocks, but no, kind of looked like flashbacks to Green Bay with that touchdown pass.
I like the one on the that was the 12th man call. Rodgers tried to throw the deep ball to him, and I was like, Aaron, that is 2025 MVS out there. That maybe 2020 MVS had that one. Put a little too much air under it, but man, like I said, like that's the 11th guy with a touchdown catch this year. Arthur Smith is known for that. It's part of what he does. Another thing he's known for is 2 rushing touchdowns from different tight ends in the game. The first time in at least 50 years anyone's done that. This is, and Aaron said this after the game, this is not a dynamic offense. It's not an explosive offense. They're not going to put up a ton of yards. If they can be good on third down, get a couple fourth downs like they did today, and continue to be really good in the red zone, which they've been most of the year, and not turn the ball over, they're going to win some football games. Like they don't need this offense to be great. They just need it to be consistently above average. They were that and more tonight. But I mean, even if no turnovers, relatively few penalties. The one was super costly, but I mean, was that the only one on offense all game? No, there was an illegal shift on Fireman. Maybe only 2. I mean, super clean game from the offense. And you do that, and you score when you get in the red zone. Touchdowns, not field goals. I thought that was a big part of this game, especially on the back-to-back drives at the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half. All that hits a lot differently if one of those is a field goal. The fact that it was 2 touchdowns, you go 14-3 at that point. That's a big difference between 14-3 and 10-3. 10-3, the Dolphins are still in that game. 14-3, they take Achane out of the game. And they did it with their offense just as much as they did it with their defense.
Yeah. And Pittsburgh, Toddy, he kind of says, "Hey, he wants to remind us that the Dolphins did tear up the Bills and win 4 straight, but I'm also looking at the 4 straight, and to their point, they beat the Bills, but they also beat the Commanders, who are not very good this year. The Saints, they're not very good, and the Jets, and they beat them twice,
and needed overtime to beat the Commanders at home.
Yes,
and beat the Saints at home by 4. So yeah, I mean, it's just I give the Dolphins a lot of credit for the way they've been playing. They really turned their season around. I think they saved Mike McDaniel's job. But this is not the kind of team that you're going to see in December and in January. Like this is not a playoff caliber team, despite the fact they won 4 games in a row. And I think, look, this is a great win. Last week was a great win too for the Steelers. I think you're going to see a lot more representative opponent next week in terms of talking about a playoff victory and what that sort of effort needs to look like. And that's what I mean when I'm trying to couch things and saying, take it easy on maybe what happened against the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, everyone talks about how good, the Dolphins' run game's been lately. The Lions have one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL.
Jahmyr Gibbs has been that good for 3 years.
So if you guys are ready to see a
but
test,
I will say my theory that I talked about with Smitty on the pregame. I think the Steelers can shut down one-dimensional rushing attacks. They shut down Jonathan Taylor. They shut down Jacobs. They shut down now Achane because those teams don't have mobile quarterbacks. The running backs that have given them trouble, Breece Hall with Justin Fields, Henry with Lamar, Cook with Allen, I think I'm onto something there. And so, Detroit, Jared Goff moves slightly quicker than me. So you're not worried about him running. Now, I will say, big difference between Miami and Detroit is Amon-Ra St. Brown is a real dangerous wide receiver. And I think they have a lot better offensive line, too. A little tougher to get after the quarterback just because you get them in a 3rd and 10 with that unit blocking as compared to this one. But I don't know. I think they're kind of onto something there.
And I will say they also have a much better wide receiver too, in Jameson Williams, who can really take the top off of any defense. So
sure.
It'll be.
I mean, I think him and Waddle are pretty comparable if you give the Dolphins Hill back, but he's not here. No, hilarious tweet in the middle of the game.
Oh yeah. Anytime Jalen Ramsey makes a play, you're going to hear it. Kobe, he has the solution as to why things went so well. He says it was the uniforms. The uniforms matter. And the Steelers, they moved to 9-3 in the color rush uniforms back-to-back years. They wore on Monday Night Football. They wore it against the Giants last year. And I think everybody loves the color rush uniforms. You know, with
actually just kind of okay on the color rush uniforms. I don't think they're great. I think they're fine. But I thought it was a really good looking game between the black on black and the white on white. I was glad the Dolphins wore their white pants. I thought that was a cool
look. Do you like it better than what they wore against the Packers? That's the big.
I think I like everything they've ever worn more than I like what they wore against the Packers. Their practice uniforms clear what they wore against the Packers easily.
Yeah, it's so funny. When we were in Pittsburgh, my son begged for one of those uniforms. I was like, "That's what you want," and he wears that thing to school with pride, though. So kudos to him.
It's not an ugly looking uniform to wear. It's just like a uniform, like you're wearing it around. Like it's just ugly with the black and then the yellow and beige and black, and it's not good. The pants are the worst part. Color rush far better.
Absolutely. And Gino here, he's making the point that I made earlier that Steelers play against Goff pretty well. And when he has a clean pocket, 2013 Peyton Manning, he says, under pressure, he's closer to 2017 DeShone Kizer. And if for those who don't know who DeShone Kizer is,
DeShone Kizer is that
he's on that nice long list of Cleveland Brown quarterbacks. But no, I think he's spot on. Like in 2019, they got after Goff and really shut down that Rams offense. And then 2021, granted, the Lions weren't playing too well. Goff didn't look good at all that game. I think he was a little banged up in that one too. But that's going to be the key, though. If they can get pressure on Goff, that would be huge. But with Herbig with a hamstring and Watt, no telling when he's going to be back. That will be a challenge.
I would be very surprised if Watt's back next week. I feel like the following week feels like about the earliest. I know the Steelers are saying they think he can play. That would really surprise me. Not saying it's impossible. He's a tough dude. Never going to count him out. But I think the following week feels a lot more prudent. And but boy, a game without him and Herbig would be pretty tough.
Next man up, Jack Sawyer, and I will say, Sawyer, he's been a solid 4th round pick. I mean, a lot of folks compared his draft pick to that of Herbig because they're both picked the 4th round. But I feel like Sawyer's come along pretty well. You're not going to mistake him for Watt or Herbig out there, but he's coming along well. So, and James, kind of echoing what you said earlier, they bought Watt a week. And that's the thing. Conference games, most important. Because if they lose to the Lions next week, they just got to take care of business against the Browns and then the Ravens. And conference games, they'll have the Ravens beat there this year.
I think they got a good shot here. We'll see how things go down the stretch. All right, Joe.
Yep.
Wrap things up.
Yes, sir. That is it for us tonight, folks. We appreciate everyone joining. Be sure to catch the morning rush, the afternoon drive, and of course on Wednesday night. I will be back in my time for the Steelers night shift because I made a promise to everybody that I would do that. So with that being said, I hope everyone has a good night or a good rest of the morning. for all of us on the East Coast. Mr. Saunders, what do we have cooking this week?
Normal week. Well, short week, actually. I'm in Tomlin tomorrow, but the short part of the week is there's no Monday. So, I mean, get right back into it, Tomlin tomorrow, and then pretty much from there on, normal week, and head to Detroit early. Should be a good trip.
Good deal. All right. Well, be sure to get yourself some Detroit-style pizza, and we'll probably talk about that on Wednesday. Everyone have a good rest of the night, and we will talk to y'all next week.